It'll say when it's live. There. Cool. Okay. Hey, everybody. We're back. I'm Kim Coleman. I'm joined with Tammy Lister. We're continuing our debrief of how we're working from our mindset of building a classic theme to building a block-based theme. Tammy's giving me lots of education about what the do's and don'ts are, what the better way to do things will be. So if you haven't seen it, we'll put a link to the day one video in this video's description once it's complete. We're going live this time. Last time we pre-recorded, so this will be our new challenge today. But Tammy and I both worked independently over the last 2 weeks on improvements to the theme. Perhaps I added some things. Tammy's like, no. So I'm going to learn those today. And I think we're going to start with Tammy doing a debrief of some of the pattern work that we're doing. I think that's like the biggest thing that block themes bring to WordPress now is those opinionated layouts that can help people get started. Really, like everyone's like, all themes are going to end up looking the same over time. Yes, but it's what we do with patterns. Not only for the header and footer areas, but also for individual layout components that really set block themes apart from one another. So I'll let Tammy take the stage and talk through what was done.
Yeah, so what I did this morning, I pulled all the patterns that would, so the easiest way to make patterns is in the editor, spoiler alert. So what you had done awesomely is made them. And what I did is, it's great that you have them, but then you only have them locally for your site, which isn't super helpful if you want to release them in a theme. There's a couple of different things you need to do. And we now need to also have some discussions about how do you take those themes and then how to take those patterns and then apply them to all cases of a theme. So first stage is putting them into the theme. I'm going to try and see if I can share my screen. I'm going to go with sharing all of my screen because it's just easier when we do entire screen. Let's go with this one. So what I did, fun point first of all. I think I'm just creating Inception. That's super exciting. Let me not share Inception because that is going to be horrible for anyone that's going to try and watch that. Let me try and first of all just share the window. There we go. Box text, is that one? Yes, is that going to show my whole screen? Is that showing the whole of my editor? I think it is. Yes, oh, that's a little bit more friendly. Thank you. So what we've done is we've got a folder of patterns, which is nobody's surprise here, which was all the patterns that are in the editor. Now, one of the things you might notice straight off is there's no text, but there is. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've taken the strings and I've put them into translation strings because if we're going to release them, they need to be translatable. Currently, this is the way that we do it. However, this also opens up a couple of issues which we're going to need to discuss. So there was some HTML tags around some. So some had strong, some had different ones. Now, a good example of what we could do is in testimonial CTA. Is this one? Yeah. So we have a couple of ones we need to discuss, such as this one. So technically that should be translatable. I know. Another one we have is technically we have things like strong. And what I've done is I've tried to split the sentence here to have like just one word. But do we want just one word? I think we've got, so we've got the name here is strong. The name here is strong, whereas this isn't strong. So we've got to think about how do we make these universal? And that also comes into, we've got a lot of color that is specific to these patterns. And that's okay if we have no style variations. But if we're going to have style variations, that is not okay. So really, I think that that's something for us to discuss. And I'm going to put that slide into one side because the other thing we have to
I'm taking some notes.
Yeah, and we're going to go through this is we have this amazing thing now, and I'm going to go to this section of keywords. So we don't have any categories. We don't have any keywords. We can put starter in here. So we can say like these are starter ones to float up. We also haven't categorized any of these. If I stop sharing, because I just want to share with 2024 as a good example of how like far you can go. If I stop sharing and I share, Share screen.
I have a question around this also related to the inserter that you can clarify for me and everyone watching. Yeah. Should I shoot?
Yeah, so what
okay. So
yes,
I love
no.
Yeah, I love that natively sync native patterns. So like my patterns show up in the inserter as like the keyword, but patterns built into my theme don't. And I'm like, oh, like that kind of stinks, right? Like you can search, you can do block inserter / grid of 4. And if it's a local pattern to your install, it comes up, but the patterns that are bundled in the theme don't.
Yes.
And it's like, is the intention that everybody's taking all of the bundled theme patterns, syncing locally, modifying, and then they become like Kim's patterns? Is that what really is intended?
Because they're locked. If you look at by default, they're locked.
Right.
There is also the problem, and the same would be for templates. If you think of it like, the question is how you can always make a best bet on how things are going to be used. And I think this goes back to initially when reusable blocks came out, right? A best bet was that reusable blocks was going to be the way that people use things. Spoiler, it wasn't. I think that patterns aren't going to be, again, what is a pattern? What is a block is another big conversation, right? Patterns aren't going to be so defined. It's going to be a best bet. I actually find the fact that patterns are locked by default quite annoying and treated by templates. I think from a user perspective, they can be quite frustrating, because you go in and you see it and you're like, what is wrong with my patterns? Why can I not just go in and edit it? Because you're trained to do it. Templates, that kind of makes sense. But if patterns are different from templates and you're learning that they're more flimsy and different, having a local set automatically made, or a button, I don't know, that says, would you like to locally make them, kind of makes sense from a user flow perspective. Does that exist today? Nope. Could that be a plugin rather than core functionality? Possibly. But I also think it's kind of super nice. That was me.
Is that your dog?
No, that was me hitting my button and then everything just falling down. Bear with me a second.
Did anything break?
No, nothing broke. Okay. You know when the your up and down desk goes up and down, and it actually goes up and down, and then everything underneath that wasn't meant to go up and down does it. So that was super exciting. I'm going to put my desk back down. Anyone else having a Monday? I am. It's because it's right here and it hasn't got a lock. Again, things that have locks are things that don't have a lock.
It's very timely.
Very timely. But just being able to, with templates, I think it makes a lot of sense with templates not touching them, but it doesn't make a lot of sense from a user perspective. So these headers, you can say that you don't include it in the server, but because you're not including it locally in your server anyway, so that kind of makes sense. So comments here, you wouldn't want a pattern for comments included, maybe. And that goes for like if it's a full site editing pattern or not a full site editing pattern, it's generally like the perception there. But patterns can get, I'm going to try and find a really complex header. Patterns can get like here, you can do viewport, post types, block types, keywords, categories, slug, and about, and that's kind of like the amount of information we can start putting into templates, patterns. So categories is, spoiler, the categories that it puts in.
And there's default ones that WordPress includes, right? It's like
yes, and be careful with so CTA or banner, spell it how it's spelled. Don't so if you did lowercase, you create a new category. So you could very easily have lowercase CTA, C.T.A, C capital T.A. But you could very easily have that if you did it wrong, or capital B, capital low b. Again, when you're making patterns in your system, it's very, check what you have. Don't just add to it, because it doesn't go, oh, do you mean, well, it will do some recognition, but it's not super useful. Keywords, there are a number of different keywords. Let me try and find some documentation on keywords.
Yeah, I'm looking too. I know that the pattern library has a good, has the categories listed for you.
Yeah. So keywords is relatively I think there's limited ones you can put in keywords, and I'm trying to find them. Keyword or options. Here we go. So title is a human readable title for the pattern. Content is required. That makes a lot of sense. Description is optional. So title and content are the only required things. Yes, they're the only required things. The description, the slug isn't required. I've got a feeling that the slug is required strange. Now, but yeah. I've got a feeling this documentation might be all right, but we can test that theory. Oh no, that's with the register. That's the register block. I'm on the wrong section. I'm trying to see the header. PHP.
There. I'll take all my notes and kind of attach this to like a blog post to debrief. Yeah. If anyone's watching and wants to know where these resources are And
I can't actually find a clear page. Hang on. Maybe.
I wonder if it's on like the
found it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just not very linkable. I will pass this to you. It is not super linkable.
Okay.
I was hoping for like a, when you can skip down in headers. That's what I was hoping for.
Like anchors. Yeah.
So none of these are required, according to. I think some of these might be required. Looking side eye at this documentation. So this has got a file header. So the title is a human readable title that can be translated. Yes. Slug. So namespace pattern name. That makes sense. Categories, a comma, separated list of categories. Description, the long description. To screen readers. Again, that's super tricky with a pattern.
Yeah.
What does it do?
How descriptive do you get? Yeah.
Yeah, viewport width. Now that can be when previewing the pattern, whether you want it to be fixed into a viewport width or not.
Oh, okay. It's not about what it is capable of being loaded on the front end. It's just for the preview.
Yeah, it's whether to show the so the width of the iPhone viewport when previewing the pattern in pixels. So it's basically the preview. So if you had it in. This is also a confusion between what appears in the pattern directory and what doesn't appear in the pattern directory. And that's why some people think the patterns in theme JSON are your patterns. They're not. The patterns in theme JSON are if you ever wanted to include any from the pattern directory.
Oh, okay.
And that's often,
Gotcha.
So that's often the confusion. So you'd call them by name from the theme pattern directory. Yeah, which is the confusion. Your patterns are the big folder. Inserter, whether you show the pattern in the inserter, defaults to true, but this can also be if you want to hide them like the comments or any any of those kind of ones, I guess.
Yeah.
Keyword.
You don't just want willy-nilly stuck into a poster page.
Yeah. I would have in the past, before template parts kind of got matured, would say some of the meta stuff, but really the meta falls under template parts now.
Okay.
That's kind of the feeling, but again, just as much as we have is it a block, is it a pattern, you have, is it a template part, is it a pattern for some things that the edges, like if you think of the hierarchy of where like blocks, patterns, template parts, as soon as it gets up to the higher end of patterns where it's going to template parts, it gets a bit fuzzy, which one ends, which one kind of goes, which is a template part, which is a pattern.
Yeah. I mean, thinking of meta, you're like, if I made 3 variations of a single post and on add new post, that window came up with the pick one, but I don't think I'd want to give someone the freedom to make this like wildly different blog posts time to time. So it makes sense that it's done in the editor, in my opinion, that it's more of like the template for single has this.
Well, the template part and a locked template part is probably what you would do in a template.
Inside of it. Okay.
Yeah. So the advantage of template parts, and we can kind of go into that a little bit, is template parts patterns are kind of separate and they kind of feel a lot like easy or whatever. Template parts, you have them in the site editor, but you go into them, if that makes sense. So you feel like you're going into them when you're creating. And it's definitely I now am wearing my site editing, my Dreamweaver hat. So I'm now in that mode. And if you don't ever edit your templates for your site editor, you would never probably realize you have template parts.
Yes.
Right. So, or unless you stumble on that section. So there is a difficulty level, I think, to get to those. I'm just going to go through this list because there's a couple of extra ones here which are often not used. So you've got the keywords. Again, that can refine the pattern for search. Part of this problem is people tend to end up with quite a few patterns and then not be able to find them, which is super useful. And then block types, a common list of block types to associate the pattern with. These are super helpful if you want to. I haven't tested this with non-core block types, so I'm curious what happens when we do this. So this is going to be something that I haven't tried before. I don't know. So let's try that.
That's cool. So that's a list of the blocks that the pattern includes.
Yeah, I've got
requires.
It doesn't say core, but I've got a feeling we're going to test whether that's core or not.
That would be great because in a theme we did for Lifter LMS called Sky Pilot, we had the issue of wanting to register, like create some patterns, create some block styles, but then we had to like filter them out if we detected the plugin wasn't active, and it was clunky. But if we could have just defined in the header of the pattern file,
it's core blocks, so I don't think it works quite that way. But I just don't think it's declaring that it's core blocks.
That's why I named this stream "The Complexities of Building a Block Theme for a Platform Plugin."
yeah. A lot of these times, it's not declaring explicitly whether it's core or not, but it generally is. Again, when we're trying to do there is no documentation on whether if you have like block support in theme JSON, there's no documentation on whether it is core block support or not, but it is only core block support.
It is only core block support.
And if you look at but you look at the schema, it's very clear it is only supporting that from the schema. Post types, a comma separated list of post types in which to limit the pattern. This is handy. So if you had specific, so it defaults to all, but if you have specific post types, again, I haven't tested for custom post types here, and it doesn't say you can't do custom post types here. It doesn't say you can. It says it defaults to all post types here. So the schema would be interesting to look at here. And I'm going to scroll down and see whether some of the examples get some of our complexities. And then template types. A comma list is separated template types the pattern fits into. So block types, post types, template types is when patterns get a little bit more intelligent when you include them in a theme. And I think that's the more interesting aspect that you can do. I'm seeing whether they haven't got any more complex examples. That's a shame. I was hoping they'd have like some super complex examples in here, which would be like fun.
That's on us.
It is on us, but it's kind of like it's fun to kind of find some conditionally loading. So there is some conditional loading which we've got to look at doing in some of our patterns. There's a section down here on conditionally loading third-party blocks. There's a section on this page. There are times you might only block that is registered on the user's install, so we need to look at doing that. So one of your patterns, for example, has if this block isn't loaded, and we actually need to do if WP block type registry, which is what the get instant is registered, but we need to do that around that, whatever it is, because if you look at the pattern currently, there's like a big box going when you haven't got the install. It goes, I haven't got that block. So some of that is something we need to look at doing as well. So graceful. Unless
we can use the block types thing, but probably not.
We can try.
But we think that might be a core only thing.
When we've got that
I bet it
is. We can try. I'm very not convinced considering we've got that loading on that same page. It's the edges, but again, but I mean, we have themes that custom and things like that. Categories, themes that custom and things like that. As it goes down, we're starting to get into a lot more like custom stuff, and you can do like functions for it. So it can get incredibly nuanced. Hello. There's a link. There's your link. I saw the link flash up.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I'm producing here.
Absolutely okay. I'm not breaking my desk for once. So patterns. I guess the first thing I would say is how unstyled. I'm going to stop sharing 2024. How unstyled do we want them? Because if we look at them at the moment, and I'm going to share my screen, they are. This is the demo, but I'm going to do my local one because it's quite good to show it without. Which is the local one I'm on. And you've got like about 4 different local installs. That's the one I'm on.
Do you recommend a theme like this does not allow the remote patterns, like disable the directory?
I think if there's a couple of local of Steam directory patterns, so 2024 has them, and if there's a couple of particularly the wireframe ones that you're like, oh my goodness, these would be super useful for everybody, include them.
Okay.
Because they're there, they're useful, and they're fun to use. But if we look at the moment at these patterns, they're very colored for one style, which is okay. But
because they're using the named colors from the theme.json, wouldn't the theme styles help?
Yes.
In most cases, except for I know a couple colors aren't.
But it converts it in the patterns as we've imported it in. So we then need to put it into variables, or we need to take a different approach. So if you literally just copy it over, what it's doing is being very literal about it in patterns. So we even need to port over my recommendation would be to have them as unstyled as possible. Fonts is one thing, but patterns do inline CSS. So they will do the design tools. I would try and not have as much coloring, if that makes sense. So if you look at 2024, it does bring over, let me just try and find an example. Try to find an example in 2024 that has a dark background, and then look at, I'm going to put 2024. Can you still see my screen as I'm going through? Cool. And try and find a pattern in 2024 that has a color. And then, so this one has, I'm going to duplicate it because that's the only way you can see it. So this is project description copy. Yes, I'm just getting started. And if you look, this is still got, so if we go to...
Has accent too.
Yeah, so it's still got, so it's got the color, but if we copied them from the local site, it brings the color through. So what we've now got to do is in the theme, bring the color through, if that makes sense. So in the code, we have the color brought through, because where you've got this, if you copy from the site, what we now have, and this is part of what we've got to change, themes, activate. We just need to basically variabilize your patterns. That's the best way that I can put it. So if we go into this, yes, okay, let's be obnoxious. Let's do this one. If we go into edit, what it's done is it's brought them in, but it's brought them more in colors. I think it's brought them in presets. I know it's brought accent too. So if we bring them in, it should have brought everything through, I think. It's just in code. But there's a couple of fixed ones you had.
The fixed ones would be the border color and the bright yellow. I know that those were named.
Yeah, you had
possibly the cover blocks background was opacity, but I think I used the cover blocks opacity adjustment, not the
top banner has a background fixed.
There might be a named white color, but I don't know.
006B66 apparently. Top banner. Oh, hello. This one. Oh, really? Okay. See, this is where you're just like.
Oh, that one doesn't have to come over. That one's just a junk one for that demo site, so you don't have to worry about that. You can delete him.
I will delete top banner. Delete. Okay, move to trash. Any of the other ones you want to get rid of, or are you all right with those ones?
Let me see. Yeah, these are all to stay. I know the issue of the elevate your growth is using a block that's not named, but that's a good test of can we build patterns for
Which one's that one?
bottom right now. Ooh. Elevate
one?
your growth. Yeah, that uses a named block that doesn't exist
Text
in
with
your local.
price.
So that's one of those that we can test with the
Yeah,
filtering it out stuff.
So let's try. So our theory currently is okay. So our easy theory, this is not going to work, but let's try it. Is the block type. I don't even know how we would call that because it's core. It's not going to work because
it would be PM Pro / It probably doesn't work great.
Yeah, because it'd be custom something, isn't it? I mean, this is not going to work.
I think we'll have to use unregistered block pattern on an
init hook. Let's do that because I think that's going to be the best way. I'm going to copy that over and do a wrap round. Ideally, just to hypothesize, what we would have would be custom / and then the name of it. So I'm just going to do what ideally I do. And then show.
Do you want me to put your editor on, or it's just the theme right now, which is fine if you're editing in.
Yes, I'm going to share that in a minute.
Okay,
I'm trying to not share the whole screen and look like. And what I'm going to do is move this over here, and then I can have that over there and just look like I'm not looking at you, which is super weird for you. But then
no, that's fine.
My whole screen.
I'm narrating.
Entire screen. Okay. See. Okay. There you go. So now we haven't got Inception. That's a lot better. So now what we want to do is, so in theory, what we would have in an ideal world, let's go back to where we would have block types. So where do we have one? I'm just going to literally copy what we have for one of these. So we have a block types core. So in an ideal world, this is so not going to happen.
I can tell you the name of that block too, if you need like the exact named
and
block.
Yeah,
it's called.
I would say it'd be custom.
Might be. I'm putting it in private chat. That's what it's named in the block.json. That's what that block is named. So I don't know.
I mean, I can do it without the custom on it and see if that works. I don't think this is going to work.
I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think.
And I think we're being sarcastic, but it's because like this is not built right now for. But if we get surprised, we get surprised. Nope.
Well, we're still browsing it though.
The naming right. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, let's give it one more go. But see, it wants to do something with that.
Yeah, like the VS
Code. No, you're just trying to be.
No,
it's just trying to be
AI.
Yeah, the AI is just trying to be. But ideally, that's what we would do, custom or something. But we're not going to be able to do that. But I think it's not too far. What we could do is have a template that only loads if you have that. So that makes probably more sense.
Or we could use that block type registry thing and have like a fallback hand-built pricing table. So like, I mean, I think mostly I might just even say like, if you're not using PannerSwitch Pro, this isn't the theme for you, which is like not that nice to do.
No, but for now, let's just wrap it.
Like, let's just wrap it. Yeah.
Yeah. So where did we get it? So it's down here. So I want to get exactly what we have. So we have conditionally loading. So we have.
And I'm going to just dig into.
Where is the conditional load?
Core, like the code.
I'm trying to find that block. So
where does it check that header?
I am trying to find that block. I'm failing miserably to find that block. Oh, there we go. PMP Pro is loaded in here. Okay.
Okay, here, block types.
Okay.
If someone is watching and has the answer to where the code for core is that does these filters.
So this is interesting because I'm not sure if this is going to work. It's registered on the users install. So core block. So I'm trying to wonder whether this, let's try and use this registry again, because I'm wondering if this is even going to work because this is a core example. So that's what we think, isn't it, that we're using? This is fun. I think that's right.
It really doesn't seem like there's anything in this. I'm looking in the
rest
types
documentation.
controller.
Oh, yeah. Look, that's it.
It's worked. Okay. So it just doesn't show anything. Which works, yes.
But we could do an else. We can do an else.
Do an else, and then we could show something different.
So
let me just drop a link.
What we learn is that is the path to the block.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's a path to something. It just meant if this isn't true. Now, what will be interesting is when we put this actually on the site with that, once I pushed it to Git. Yeah. Or do we just break it for everything?
I'm wondering if that's the core file. I'm going to dig into that later. Try to like debug around. But debug around and see why doesn't it like.
Because that definitely is the path for it. I'm going to push this to Git now. And
that's what it like. If you inserted that in the editor and you looked at the code view, that's what you would see like as you're like, you know.
And it's definitely registered at the block type. That's where it's registered. So. Okay. So we want to do that one. We've got all the headers. We have everything. Nothing is fixed. I'm just checking before I push it. I think we can just do. So what I've done is done all the strings.
So it's funny. Like my mindset is like, let's just add more colors, like that yellow. But I think you're like, no, Kim, don't add too many colors, and that's okay.
Yes, so because if you have a yellow and then someone does a yellow background, then they have to change it. Or if we have a yellow theme and then we wanted to do change the yellow theme is the problem.
Yeah. Or
but I think yellow for stars makes a lot of sense. Did I just pause? Or are we okay?
No, my brain's breaking a little bit because I'm like, part of me want the angels like, you know, make it great. So when people change colors, it works. And then the other side's like, make it opinionated. So
I know
like, you can build beautiful things. Because I think that's always been a problem for Paid Memberships Pro in particular, like trying to like let the theme handle it has been hard because themes don't handle it because they don't account for a plugin they never designed for. So you're like, okay, like let the theme handle it. Makes people like upset that their front end's not gorgeous. And
have you got that yellow in your color set?
Not yet,
because you could include the yellow in your color set. So when you had a dark mode, you could just pick out the yellow in your theme JSON and then just swap it for like a brighter color. So what you could do is you can have more colors. It just requires you having more colors in your theme JSON. And then you can just be swapping them out. And I think that's probably the better way to go. What you've got also, what I saw you were starting to do is having the more of the block styles. I think that's probably an answer for you, having like the wave and the different effects. Maybe another option you have is with these circles here, you have a block style that has a shadow, a block style that doesn't have a shadow, all those kind of different ones. Definitely some different, more exciting buttons would be something I go with. Like you've got the outline, the not outline, the square, have a square, not a square, have like even a gradient buttons. Just you can go to town with things like that. I think. Oh, you've got another block here, haven't you?
Do the block styles ever collapse to a drop down in the way that, like, if you had
no, I don't think
20 group block styles, would they ever collapse to a drop down in the panel, or do they always stay as individual like buttons?
No, and I would recommend don't have 20.
Don't have 20. Okay. I know, it's like,
it's almost encouraging you to be,
selective.
it's the thing about a block style I would always say is it a complete thing that stands on its own? Is it worth changing? So
yeah,
a good
I know
example
a lot
is,
of them. Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna let you talk.
Sorry. No, a good example is, and I've done this before, is if you just want to have a border on an image, don't have a block style for it.
Yeah, you can do that. Here's how. Let me unlock your capabilities with the editor.
Yeah.
To do that.
But if you wanted to have a button that had no rounding, a shadow, a background, certain padding, and if you touch like 2 or 3 presets, the thing of it is like presets is probably the best way that I can describe it. Then yes, buttons is probably going to be intensive for you, but you might want to do buttons and button because you can. Social icons, think of like your social icon variations. You could do those.
I guess if you did it in theme JSON, then your theme styles could have their own defaults. So if we had a more crisp, no rounding style, that one would, rather than adding a button style, we would add it at the theme level on button to say, like, when you're in crisp style, crisp cash flow, you have square buttons.
Yes.
And when you're in default cash flow, you have this kind of button. And that would trickle through even if they had already inserted buttons and decided to change later.
Yes.
As long as all the buttons didn't have a custom style selected, as long as they were still default, they would change.
And cool. You can override some block styles at theme JSON level now.
Okay.
So
wow. So you can say like, oh, yeah, that was part of it. We were when I was brainstorming like the wavy blob motif, I was thinking like, let's also have like a sharp slash kind of version. And then I was like, should I not include that style if they're in the wavy version? Because they're not actually motifs you'd want to mix. And I was like, should it? But Jason was like, just give it all. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if you're the right person that knows block themes enough to make those calls, you know?
Yeah, I'm just going to try and find a bit of documentation.
That's good.
I think, well, this is, I mean, I've just found a giant paragraph for you. I'm not sure. Giant document, but there you go. So this is basically May 2023. And customizing a core. So it's core currently. So you can't do your own, but then you can do your own variations using theme function, not theme JSON. But bear in mind, we can also still hook into the classes. We've already spoken about, and that's been a separate conversation, is how do we still using theme JSON variables? Because you can, because it's WP preset, so it's still a variable that's sat there. We can still, our training wheels is to still use a style sheet. So in this awkward middle, I think the best way I can describe it is, and I hate the word hybrid because it's not what we're in with themes. We are still in a block-based theme, 100% that's what we're doing. But for some of these features, we are in an awkward middle. Short codes, some of the custom things that we want to do. And that's things that aren't just core blocks. So a lot of the functionality is 100% support for core. But whenever you want to do it for something that's not core, it doesn't quite work. But you have the ability to then do because you'll have that class name, you can then unhook or hook that class name depending on what you do on your theme JSON. It gets super complicated, but we have the ability to change things, per theme. And that helps. My biggest example for that is dark or light mode, because the same thing, particularly with shadow, if you have a dark shadow, which would work for light mode, you need a light shadow that would work for dark mode.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want is like, two places where the same exact shadow is declared. And if it's or not shadow necessarily, but other things.
Yeah. So that's probably why I would say we're going to still have the theme JSON variables, but then probably a style sheet for some of these variations, but using the file.
Okay.
What I've seen some people do is set up SAS for some of that file, which but it does work a little bit if you have other ones or calling it the same thing. But I don't think we need to get that complicated. I think it's just where your edge cases are and then thinking about how much your variations are. But again, we don't need all the combinations in the world. Just think of like, I think you need a dark, a light mode because that's just covers your bases. And then think about what do you do in between. And how do you do it? I like that some of these are very opinionated, but with opinionation comes those edge cases.
Gotchas. Yeah, when I look at I was looking at Powder by Brian Gardner, and all of his patterns have 2 copies of them. He has the dark and the light, dark and the light. It's just necessary because it
is, but you can also do some of that with, I think there's a way you can do it with some of the classes. But you have to decide, is it a pattern, is it a block style, is it a again, it's the edges, right? The hierarchy. What are you seeing it as? Are you seeing it as a block style variation, or are you seeing it as a pattern variation? Pattern variations would be lovely if we could have that as a feature, right?
Give us a few years.
But I think that then if someone thinks of a site, they think of a pattern, they don't think of a block. This is what I come back to time and time again. Nobody ever says, I want a cover, or nobody ever says, I want an image. Nobody ever says, I want a button. So everybody is thinking of building the site in patterns. So patterns is really what should have all the features on it. It should have the variations. If we had pattern variations, this would make what we're doing here very easy, because these things here would have none of the styling in it. The styling would be completely separate from it. And then we would be having like some kind of file, but then they lose their portability. So, because at the moment you can grab them and then just throw them at anything and then they just pick it up, which is amazing. But it doesn't work as soon as you detach the styling from being in line. Then that doesn't work at all. I mean, we've already got stuff that doesn't work. Like this doesn't work on every theme, right?
Get me closer. So, I can't see it.
Read it has accent to background, and it doesn't work on every theme and stuff like that. So but for portability, so if you hadn't declared anything of those colors or those names, we've already lost that like clothing changing automatically, right? Functionality. I think there's some fallbacks to a certain extent, but this is perfect line height. But then this has X font size. Well, what if it doesn't? Or what if it hasn't got accent to color? Well, then it can do has text color or has link color. There's a fallback that it hopefully has something, but then it's preset space in 70. But then what if it hasn't got preset space in 70? Or it's got flex basis, and then there's no padding if it's got none of that. So the portability is hard. So on Hub features grid 4, we also need to do the same thing, don't we? We've got a unique block in here, I think, haven't we?
Something's just angry in there. Oh, you know what it is? It's the highlight. I have that's highlighted with yellow background. So is it upset that the...
Where is it? Trying to find out where it's angry.
It was something like, let me get the link to the actual on the demo.
Yeah, I can see it here. It's like personalized strategy. Is it
Pinnacle tier exclusive might have been the string.
What are you angry about? What have I done? Okay. Strong. Good. Do we need another strong? Is that what you're moaning about? That is literally what you're moaning about, isn't it? Well, you can be happy now. Yes, now it's happy. Trying to debug in the pattern. Yeah, iframe is super fun. I think every one of those, so I'm going to push them and see. What I'd like you to do is now see if on the main site this works. That's kind of what I wanted to do.
So are the images local now, or are they still loading off remote? We have to pull them local.
So the images are still pulling off. So what one has images? Team Grid. They're still pulling from the demo.
Okay. So we'll have to build those into the assets.
Yes. So we need to do that as well.
I didn't think I even added alt text for those.
Yeah. So let me stop sharing and push this. I don't think pushing to GitHub is a spectator sport. It might be.
When it goes right.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there aren't anchors. I like your clicky keyboard.
Pink too.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
I'm a loud typer. Jason's always like, you're such a loud, clicky typer. I'm like, it's fun.
Advantage of having an office in the middle of the garden.
No one to judge your clicking except
no
me.
one to judge my keyboard.
I am applauding your keyboard.
It is very loud, very clicky, and I don't care. Keeps me alive and awake. That's what it does. It also flashes like rainbow colors as well. Oh, why are we not? Oh no, don't. Okay, it's having a bit of a moment. I was out of date. Oh no, I've got to reboot. Bear with me. See, this is why it's not a
spectator sport.
Yeah. Well, I think that did it. Do you want to see if that worked for you and you have patterns?
Right, let me see.
I had to rebase, so that was super exciting. Apparently, I'm having a very Monday. So there we go.
Yep, I have patterns. I got them local now. Perfect. All right. I think before we do the images, I'm debating whether I'm gonna generate some AI humans rather than use these. These are up
with weird hands.
Unsplash. Yeah, I really want to get all the fingers. Join our community and grow 6 fingers.
So step one, I think, is just to test whether that worked with what we said, which was the wrap, because if that didn't, we've got to look at an alternative method for that.
So what we're looking at is whether it works.
Yeah, for the text of pricing, whether it just wraps it. Now you're testing it with a site that's actually got the block.
Okay,
so does it actually show that block?
Right. I have the block on my local.
So have you got the latest now, right? I take it.
Yep. I want my patterns. It might be, now I'm not seeing it.
And it's synced.
Oh, it is. Is it this one?
It worked.
No, that's my synced. That's the locked one.
Oh, so it's not working. So it's not doing it.
Let me look at that code.
And my camera's just gone. Bear with me a second. My camera's back.
I'm going
That was super exciting.
patterns. It's the text with pricing. Block type registry get instance is registered.
Yeah.
Let me bar dump this guy. Well, I don't know. I'm probably going to fatal error if I bar dump in the site editor, right?
Don't know.
Let's see. Bool, false. I can almost see that it says false. Did that work? No, that didn't work.
Because it's an iPhone, so it's a separate page anyway. So
let me look at this one, actually. Since this one I can actually edit.
Yeah. So it's not finding that block.
Does it want this?
Without the WP, maybe. But that's what we put in, wasn't it?
That's what you did.
Put the WP in as well and see if it wants the WP. I can't remember if it does or not, but unless it only works for core, and that's my concern.
Still false. All right, let's try. Just
we can research this and come back to it though.
Yeah. Let me check a core block, core paragraph.
Core will work. Core / paragraph will work because it's a power.
If this, no, it's still returning false. WP block type registry get instance is registered. Core / paragraph. We think that should work, right?
Okay, try applying to registered hero block. I'm in. Yeah, that's literally what I'm seeing. Text. Registered hero block. That's fascinating that wouldn't work. I'm literally seeing, let me just paste, doesn't super help pasting in chat, but I literally see that.
Yeah. Where's my window here? Okay, that worked. So there's something, maybe it was because I was doing, okay. Let's try again. Try again. Let's register.
We've got like a wrong.
Yeah, it just doesn't like, it doesn't like a not core block.
Yeah.
Poop.
Okay. Let me just.
So it's just going to have to be at the filter the pattern level, I imagine.
I think if it does, check. No. Because saying it means that's really going to help me. Yeah, I think this is only core.
What if we check something else? What if we check like a constant in that plugin? Like, don't worry about whether the block exists. Just
check that will work.
The plugin exists. Would that work?
That will work. Yeah, totally. Because it's old school theming.
Yeah.
And it's PHP.
Okay, so I'll just
now like whether it errors when you load it in the editor, that's another matter. But let's try that.
Okay, I'm checking a defined constant I know exists in that add-on.
But this could be how we break the iframe. And let's check in the site editor to see it doesn't get sanitized.
When I insert the pattern?
Insert the pattern in the block editor and the site editor and double check that it doesn't get sanitized, and then also check code view, because I'm just checking whether that would happen.
So insert the pattern, right?
Yeah.
All right, this is test constant check for pattern.
Oh, I know why the block type registry doesn't work, because you're not registering the block type because the block type is coming in your plugin.
Yeah.
Uh.
It uses, I can show you the code from the.
Yeah, but you don't, core doesn't register it.
Core doesn't register it. But maybe another type, like a block exists or something is. All right, what was I doing? Back to my business here. I'm getting distracted.
There needs an easy check if block.
Text with pricing. This is the local one. This is the real one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it seems to work here.
Okay, what about code view? I'm checking everything, and then I'll go back from code view. Okay, it's okay. Okay, nothing broke. Try site editor. I'm just seeing what a user could do to break it. If a user can't do to break it.
All right, so let's say they were like, I want this on everything.
Yeah. I'm not sure this is the right answer. There's got to be like an easier check, but I'm going to go and research as well. I thought this is a research homework project.
All right, let's see. So there it is in the editor. I'm going to deactivate. Well, if I deactivate now, if I had deactivated that add-on now, the block already is present in this template, so it's going to error.
Yeah.
But here it looks fine. And here it put the short code. Well, not the short code, the block for the pricing block. Go back. You think sometimes if you go back and forth, it can get angry again.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked.
And
yeah,
the code editor?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So
it's checking the code editor I'm worried about as well.
Okay. Is that what I not? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm also going to have a bit of a dig, because if there isn't a easy, if it exists, and there's got to be, I'm just not knowing it because it's not done it, and that's great learning. If there isn't one, sometimes there isn't. I feel that there is a good argument for, if it doesn't exist, let's try and get one. There was an issue I put through yesterday, just as a potential discussion, to the way that I think the shortcodes could work is by having a class associated to the shortcode block, so that it becomes unique.
Oh, yeah.
When you apply it. It's super hacky. It's hacky muck hack. That's what it is. But it's the only way that I can see of making the shortcode block work for like different instances when you're using it. Or it's the only way I can think of to start a discussion about a smarter way of doing it, which will come up from there.
Right. But it could find like the unique shortcode name and strip the attributes from it, but find what's unique in that.
Or you could just say, so you could put Bob or whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true. Just add the CSS. Yeah. Okay.
And if you can do that, you can make it unique in that case, and then do another one and do it unique. The problem at the moment is the shortcode block you can't make unique. And because you can't make it unique, you can't target it so easily. That's the problem. But you can't target. And then it doesn't load and start. But I think the issue I put through is more likely to lead to a better solution in a discussion, because what I propose is super ugly. But it opens up again, because shortcodes, just to recap what we found, is shortcodes, you can't use stylebook to style them, because of course they're not unique, but you also just can't really use them so much in site editor is the best way, because they're not a unique entity. And that creates a lot of problems, because you can say to someone, oh, well, sucks you don't have shortcodes, but that's not really good. You can offer upgrade paths, but again, that's not really good. You can try and clean all the shortcodes out of your content, but again, that's not really good. There's so many not good paths, and to think that someone's going to be freshly installing a new site every single time, you're going to have a lot. It's the awkward middles that we are trying to create for, which is what most people are going to exist in. You want someone to be able to get the new block theme and just set up and running, and it more or less to be able to work for them. And shortcodes needs to be part of that equation. If they have already been working on shortcodes, and a portion of plugins are never going to convert if shortcodes really don't. come over. I would hypothesize at this point. So yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to write a custom install script with a button like, hey, like if we detect we're using Paymasters Pro shortcodes, do you want to swap them to blocks? Yes. And I think that I can read the shortcode well enough to match it to block settings. We already do some migration like that.
Yeah, which is smart, like an upgrade install, but also that's a hard user experience. And what if one, it doesn't work? What if they don't want to do all of them? What if they then go and, because a good example for that I can think of is Mary, the inputter, always use the shortcode. Mary comes along.
Keep doing
it. So Mary comes along after you've upgraded to a beautiful block site and you've got everything lovely installed and you've got everything all set up. And Mary pops a little shortcode in to every page. Mary has just wrecked everything and caused so many problems for everybody. Bless her cotton socks. But that's the use case, right?
Yeah. They're used to the way that they did things, so that the unlearn is hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I think it is just having, and we're not designing an interface just for Mary, but we also need to have the ability to undo. I do think what you're talking about is part of it. I've been considering, like, is there an upgrade wizard? I hate wizards, but there is an upgrade. Some plugins are doing this for beta testing. I've noticed this with quite a few, and it stops some of the ugly, particularly if you've got like keys and licenses and things. And I'm noticing quite a few of them are doing it when testing. And I do feel that if it's a plugin that needed a theme, you're probably going to have some kind of upgrade or conversion grade or something.
Kind of like make it nice, wizard.
Yeah. Take my training wheels off and move some to the plugin. But
the like the shortcode output render markup isn't the same as the way that a block gets wrapped, right? The divs, but we can like intuit them almost. So like the theme could filter so the shortcode outputs was just like div class equals PM Pro shortcode. But we could say like, no, right before you output the shortcode, wrap it in all these other things that the block editor would have done if this was the block version. So that's like a weird hacky path too, is like on the render, on the shortcode render, wrap it in the markup that the block editor would have done. And then I think the styles would match as well. No, it wouldn't, because the block editor, the page will only conditionally load the CSS for the blocks that it sees.
Dumb and really using classes. That's what it's done. That's why so we can kind of fake it with the CSS class being attached to it or a unique. So that's how it works. All blocks. So if you think of all the block styles work, block styles look super fancy, right? All block styles is a class. That's all they are. That's literally all they are. They look super fancy and amazing, but all they are is a class name swapping in and out. That's it. That's all they are, right? The power of CSS. Because presets. And that is what is missing for Stylebook to not work, for this to not work, for that. That's all the, styles as a system. All it needs is that class name, and that class name could be a number of presets. It could be telling it to do like a number of things, or could be telling it to do one thing. It doesn't care. It just needs that preset to tell it. And if it has a shortcode with no preset, it's like, I don't apply styling here, so I just move on. And that is the problem we have here. Is it hasn't got anything attached. But we're going to have that with another problem we're probably going to have is if older themes have a lot of inline editing or inline styling or inline coloring. That's then not going to be converted over if you go into a block theme or the HTML tags. So the if you've got
move your content over.
Your install path is nuking your content.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Like, do you really need this? We're just gonna tidy this up and strip it all. No, I don't know.
But like, you remember in Word, there used to be like clean your tags.
Yeah, like remove formatting or like
Yeah.
safe copy, safe paste. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paste
So
from
paste from Word kind of ones. Yeah. There has to be some kind of, you know, I think your skills won't be so bad, but if I go up to like agency scale, the amount of like highlighted and inline and like if I think of again going back to a dark mode theme, and what the user has done is highlighted the wrong yellow in scientific documents all throughout using some kind of weird 12 pixel font fixed with a gray that then doesn't work on the scale that they have on the color system, and then that means every single thing needs to be checked. You've then got the copy conversion at the same time. It's why like we have conversions of content as well as you have with the block theme. But yeah, there's a whole scale to the block theme, because then you're giving people the presets to have it and you're separating the styling, whereas before people were very much like, I'm now controlling the styling. You can do it, so there is a highlight and there is that control. So yeah, you had a list of questions. We kind of went into the patterns.
Is that okay? Can we do it? All right.
Totally.
First one was about our spacing scales. I feel like they're just tight, and I can show. And I don't know if we even ever adjusted this. Where's that page I made?
So we've currently got it at.
Let's do like a group. I'm just gonna put a. Let's put background on. Right. Okay. So one thing is like, do you suggest putting padding on like by default on a group block?
Yes. And that was one of the next things
I'm gonna do. Or not when it has a background, like always?
I would probably by default have it on a group, because it's very rare that you don't have it. But we can do different ones. Okay.
Do some themes target just when there's a background color?
You can do CSS for background or not. So you know where you can do the custom. You can actually do a custom class for that as well.
That has okay. Yeah. Is that your preferred way to do it, or just always put some padding on?
For group, I tend to find that it's pretty much always got padding around it.
Okay.
And it's rarely not, but then it's a presumption.
Okay. And then
a lot with group, I tend to not actually put styling around it. The reason being, it tends to be the elements themselves that I like to put padding on. So I use group more as a container, or I'd use group as a pattern that would have the spacing around, and the pattern would have the spacing. So the group individually wouldn't, but the pattern that group would have, if that makes sense. So if I was going to have a text block that was made from a group, I would have the padding on that. If someone was just going to put group and just use it normally, I'm going to see what 2024 does, because always like it's a good like, what is their like default? I got a feeling they went with what I did, and they've literally not got any styling on group as well.
Then maybe I will just put it when there's a background color, which I think,
there's nothing on group. There's nothing on group for them either, not even background.
I do notice in they put like left and right padding on things so that the mobile collapse is nicer. And I don't know where that's being done in 2024, but I know with ours right now, it's like bleeding edge to edge on.
Yes, so they've got that on variations. They've got that on the template, I think. On their template, because we haven't even gotten to templates yet. So that's on their template level.
Has left and right padding.
So where they've got the WP group block, they've got the padding on the group block. So if you look at home, well, that doesn't help. Home business. So where you have single, you have alignment full, and then so if you have single.html, you have alignment full, and then it has padding top, margin bottom, and then so it's basically got those paddings on it, and then it's got spacings, block gaps, presets, top, middle, presets, groups. So it's basically putting the gaps, and that's where on the single with sidebar, so it's declaring the spacings at the templates levels.
At the template level. Okay.
So on the page, so this is a good example on page.html, it's WP preset spacing 50 is the height, and then there's a spacer, and then the layout is constrained, and then there's the text align. So there's all the spacing presets and stuff in that one.
But it's not putting the padding there. So where am I seeing like there? Here, let me go here.
Padding presets. It's on the lines. I think it's on the lines.
Oh, get me out of this view. I should
Is
have
it
put
on
my
the
theme
lines?
switcher on here. So if I'm here, so maybe it's just all, oh, but that like full bleed isn't actually full bleed now. Well, this one is.
Yeah, so if you look at, oh, hang on.
Well, I'm in like a weird I'm in a weird page I curated. Let's pick one
I
of
can't
those.
write the word align.
This
That's very helpful.
Yeah, where are these paddings put? They're probably just in the pattern, like you said, in the full page pattern.
Yeah, they're in the patterns or the template parts.
Or the template part. What's this?
Yeah, because I'm looking at lines, and lines are just different widths. If you go into the template, if you go into the if you go into the patterns, there's full width padding.
Has global padding.
Yeah, so it's got global paddings. So there's some templates. Some of the templates have got it, but also you've got like post 1 column, post 3 column. So post 3 column has got it because the query has got it at it. Post 1 column has got page home business.php is built up of 6 patterns. So you've got the template is built of 6 patterns, if that makes sense. Yes. And that each of those patterns, so banner hero has got
left
its
and
own,
right.
It's got its own padding, and then so it's basically. Do you remember in the old days where you used to pull in sections of HTML? That's basically what you're doing, pulling in sections of HTML with patterns. It's the best way I can pull that in. So yeah, as you pull them in.
So the reason, so their single has like a full alignment.
Yeah.
They don't really let you. They don't let you put a like a full bleed row. If I wanted to put.
Yeah.
How could I do this? No,
because that's a fixed width. So some of their pages are full width, and you can have going through, but some of them are confined.
Why don't I see it? I just added something. Oh, is this a protected post? Oh, no, it's not.
I think it's
no,
the
that
content
is full width. Okay.
Well, I think it's the content is fixed width, if that makes sense.
Oh, the post content is constrained. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that doesn't have padding, obviously, because I didn't add it.
Yeah.
So it's just the content itself. But where's that coming from?
It'll be the alignments, the layouts, the upper level on the layout. So where you've got, is that single?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we've got single. So you have single.html, so it's got alignment full rather than, so if you go into alignment full, that's, yeah, so alignment full and full alignment is set rather than wide. And I know full and wide are completely
So we have to set these, I guess, the root padding alignment on.
Yeah. So where you've got alignment full,
padding.
So it also is dependent on, so it's dependent on paddings and alignments. So alignments are full, wide. So where you've got it in the style.css, theme JSON, you have wide. You have content size and wide size. So content size, you know, where you've got the drop down for wide and full and layout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's those. So if you go into the site editor with the single template, you'll be able to see this a little bit easier on the outside container.
Where is the
There.
that has global padding set? That's what we want to, I think that's what we need to set. Let me go into.
Yeah, if you go into if you go into edit the page, you'll be able to see it a little bit more in the editor.
Edit site.
Yeah, it's quite hard to read them from the pages.
Is that in layout in the styles?
It's in our theme.
Here.
We haven't set any of these yet.
We haven't set any of these. Okay.
Yeah,
so if we can
we've set no paddings or anything.
If we had made
here.
this, whatever. So these are defined in theme JSON?
You can define them in theme. These whips would be then to that template if we were going to do templates. So that's where we want to do the template or the pattern specifically.
What do they have for that? They don't have that.
They're doing it on the, so if you load up 2024 and you view the single page, you'll be able to see how they set their page up.
But wouldn't it have to be in the theme? I mean, dense. That's margin.
It's more, I find it's always easier to load it up in the site editor because then you get to see like the visual. I personally find it quite hard to read it in there. So if you go into the editor and you pull up the template, it starts kind of making a bit more sense on where the constraints are because, I'm actually in the code editor. That's not super helpful. You can start to see where it's got, so it's got on the group block, it's got like full width, if that makes sense, what I'm looking at. So then it's not got inner content use width set. So it's not using a set confined. But then if you go into like the featured image, it's then the featured image is set just there, but then it's got stack. And then stack has got a certain size. So post meta has got a certain size. So what it's doing is on the individual section, it's setting size. So
but it's not setting padding on any of these.
Group block has got no padding. Header block has got no padding.
Right padding.
Header has got padding. I think header has got padding. So what happens when we go down? Mobile. Tablets.
Padding top and bottom, but the left right padding.
Yeah. So there's definitely padding coming from somewhere.
If we go to style. Nope, wrong style. I want layout.
Layout. It's block spacing from the top and the bottom. So the top and bottom is, and then we've got, so I'm looking at Starbook, and you've got content width, content wide, padding. Yes, there is. If you go to the styles, you've got this set, and then on group, you've got this set as well. Should I share my screen a second?
Yeah, show us.
So you've got this.
All right, add to stage. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Is that something we can define in our theme?
Yep.
Okay.
You set it in the template and then copy the template, if that makes sense, because it comes from the template. So this is at the template level. It's on this group block at the template.
You're in the styles, you're in the layout styles. Isn't that global for the theme? Or no?
Yeah, you've got it on global. Let me have a look if we've got padding, but they've not defined group. So they've done per group in the template, not
this is what
defined group throughout. Because if you actually search for group in theme JSON, it doesn't exist. So group is not in theme JSON. It's been defined in the template level. So it's in the template level. It's been padding defined to it. So if you go to group block, it's got padding, spacing, preset, padding, margin top, group block, padding, preset. So I've got group full, preset spacing top, margin, preset orientation, flex, single HTML, group block, preset, padding top, margin. See, going through spacing, block gap, padding top, bottom. Interestingly, in the template, oh no, here it is, I think. Because I'm seeing zeros in the template, which is making it super curious for me. I'm looking at it in the template. I see margin top, padding bottom. But yes, you can define it on the template. And I'm trying to find out whether it's in the pattern or the template at the moment. My recommendation generally would be here to declare it, if that makes sense. So you declare it. So here,
group. Okay.
If you had it here, but the only problem with doing that is then you can't do the coming out. So why they're declaring on each element is so that then you can have a pop out element.
Okay. Which people like.
Yes. So that is why it's a little bit more complicated than all group blocks have this, or all group blocks have this, so that you can pop them out. So it's not as easy, but it means defining. So we have to decide what we define at pattern and what we define at template. If you did with the rigid, everything in this template has the layout width, then everything is confined to the post content. And then you don't get the funky widths. No.
You don't get the funky widths. Yeah. People like to play that. All right. I don't want to make you go too long. So just say when you have to go. How would you suggest that we style form? I know there's the experimental form you just block, but that wouldn't even trickle down. Like, I want this theme, if anyone installs PayMerchants Pro or Lifter LMS or a contact form plugin, to have some built-in styling for fields.
So I would probably say
CSS is our only way.
CSS, but using the variables in theme JSON, which is
using
what we
the variables
discussed.
from theme JSON.
Yeah, so which is
we
the
know
preset
that
variables.
Colors.
Yeah.
So if we set like the background of form fields to the base color, if you flip to an inverted scheme, you're not going to get big white fields. You're going to get black fields. Okay. Yeah. Then I think we do need a border color named in themed JSON.
Yes.
Because that'll be used.
Well, you could do a contrast and pull it through one of the contrasts.
Yeah, like a
gray.
A grayish color. Call it contrast, not border color, even though we know what it's used for.
Yeah.
Okay.
My recommendation would be to have a gray, well, one or two, so a light and dark gray in the contrast. And then you've got a variety to pull through, and then you can also have a HR.
Okay. Okay, cool. So that'll be in style. I'm putting my notes. That has to be done in style.css, but can use variables from theme JSON. Cool. Yeah, I can use like the spacing and the, I don't know. We don't have like a default border radius named in theme JSON, right?
We don't, but I think that's whether you want to have. Do you want all your buttons to not have a border radius, or do you want your buttons to have a border radius?
I think the default style will have one.
Because I'm moving on now. Now we've like set up the basics of patterns. What I was going to do a little bit now was set up some defaults. So that's a great segue into and buttons is a big one. So with buttons, what kind of border radius are we thinking of? 3,
I think
6?
like 6 or 4. I think 6 is nice.
6. Okay.
So we could pull the border radius named from the button as a variable into the style.css, or no? Maybe. And then just have form fields use that.
You should be able to pull it.
Could.
as far as I know, because it will just be declaring it as a variable. Yeah. Yeah, because you just literally do like a declaring. So you should be able to. I've done with colors. I've never done with border radius. That's why I was like, okay.
Maybe.
Because you should be able to.
That'll be good for our form fields then, because it will.
Yeah. It's the
lovely.
same declaring. So should. I'm going to like go up at the end of my sentence and be very curious at the same time. Yeah, you should be able to. I'm just thinking, where else do we declare numbers? Because if we declare numbers somewhere else, we can very easily put it in. I've got a feeling hang on. There has to be a way now with all the work that's gone on in ThemeJSON. Yeah, I thought there was. There's more border radius controls in ThemeJSON now that we can do. I had a feeling there was way more than. Okay, I'm in the schema. I'm diving in.
Going to the schema.
You can do like border and then a value. So if you can do border and a value, you should be able to pull it out. You can do radius. So on group block, you can do radius specifically. So I think you can do. Yes, but I'll try it.
Okay.
It is what I do. Fair. But you can literally do, because now you can pull out the radius specifically. A good example is, let me pull this out. I'm just going to get this example because this is a good resource link if you want to have like everything you can do in ThemeJSON.
Oh, great.
Just everything you ever thought you ever wanted to know. Okay. I think this is the latest one as well. Which, when you say everything and then you do this list, you're like, is that it? But
is that it?
That's quite a lot. But border radius, border top left, border right.
Okay.
So that border radius, the WP preset border radius should get it, I think, because the pre accent can do it in the array, so it should do exactly the same. My query is you call it in an array, whereas you don't call the color, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You give the color a value. That's why I'm querying it. Hence, it's a variable that you can call out.
It's nested in. I bet it's still named. It's probably just named.
You can also do custom values, because you can do custom values. I'm wondering if we do the other way. So
just set some extra bonus things.
Yeah. So the other thing that you can do is you can do custom values in ThemeJSON. So I think what we would do, if not, would be, where was it? I'm trying to give you custom spacing, custom
settings, custom, or is that it?
I'm trying to give an example of it. This is a clumsy everything in an entire page, but I'm going to give you this one. Okay. So where it says custom, there's a way that you can do like
custom property presets.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then maybe we do that. We could even do that for the box shadow used on the.
Yeah.
Are these editable by end user in site editor or no? Can they like say like, well, I don't like that custom?
No.
Okay.
You can.
The reason not to just write CSS is because you don't want to duplicate it, and you want to give people freedom.
Yeah.
But at least the not duplicating is, 50% of the value of creating something.
Yeah. I mean, they could then, they can save their own colors, but they can't, as of yet, create their own presets and then save them or fork it, or to come, most likely. I would say would be forking of presets. That seems logical to me. But yes, we can do. And here you have
what the name,
which is what I think we probably do a lot of that, basically.
Okay, yeah. I should share this in my screen. I like when you click that button, you're like, kapow.
Yeah. Ha. because I'm scrolling down like this. Some of these pages are great in the older handbook where you could just skip to it, and then some of these pages in like the newer handbook are not so good, where you're scrolling like pages of content and you don't get
they're
to
not
like
anchored,
hot
right?
links.
This one is.
Yeah.
So what we would do is in theme.json add this kind of stuff, and then what you put in the chat then was that you'd have these named kind of root variables that we can use in theme.json, we can use in our style.css, we can use in the PM Pro custom style sheet. Yeah. Okay.
Which I think is a better solution for you to do. It does mean that we have, so I've worked with a project recently that had a very large custom section. I was like, ugh. But I think for you, that probably is kind of useful. The reason I'm here is it can become why. But I think for this one, it's because you then are using it in multiple places.
That's and rather than pull from button. Let's say we said rather like form custom CSS in style is going to use the border radius of buttons. Like that to a user wouldn't intuitively be like, I like my border buttons to have like the most rounded, whatever. They wouldn't realize that would trickle to their forms necessarily.
No. And so we can,
but if we name it as custom, if we name it as custom, then the theme styles can change it. And if somebody wanted to customize the default button block in the site editor styles area, they could do that and it would detach from form values. Okay. I like that.
I'm just going to try and find an example. Yeah, so if you look at Ollie, to look at like a real world example, Ollie uses it. I think I've got 24 examples of custom in Ollie, which is like, I mean, some of them are custom templates, but the custom section, I'm going to, just as we mentioned Powder, but also Ollie has custom line height, type, custom, but just having that more control over it and having, I'm just trying to see where it calls custom. Yeah, so it's custom font weight, custom line height. So actually specifically it's for font weights and line heights is what they're doing. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 font weights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can't count, 7 line heights. And in Powder, just to kind of give, I think this is, I was like this, this is totally the way to go is custom. Because in Powder, we have, the page is upside down. I love how different people put like blocks and different things in different sections in theme.json. Like the blocks is at the top in this one. In Powder, we have, is that Powder again? Oh yeah, line height. I never liking of line
Why does everyone
height.
like to do this?
I'm checking I haven't got the same thing open. No, okay, no, it's the same thing. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 custom font weights. I think it's loading specific font weights in to be really targeted about font weights and line heights, which is actually
maybe because do some styles use different fonts that don't have as many weights, so they have to condense them? Like, I don't think so.
I think it's using it specifically to get that almost pixel precision on things like query title and real precision on stuff, because I'm seeing like author comment name used for line height and semi-bold. And so the font weights, what they've got in both themes, this is such like Pandora's box we've opened in a good way, right?
Yeah.
They are pulling in everything from thin, extra light, regular, medium, semi-bold, bold, extra bold, black. And then they're pulling in none, tight, snug, normal, relaxed, loose, and body for line height. But because of that, they're being a lot more precise and precision, which I think when you're doing a framework, which both of these are, well, they kind of are, but they aren't. Yeah. that makes a lot more sense for them to have that scale. But again, it shows they're using custom really strongly for those kind of positions. So when we want to have, us really, it's colors or it's border radius or different things. I think I'm going to have a look and see if either of them do anything with group block, because I think they don't either. I think group block is literally a block that nobody styles, which makes a lot of sense because it's a wrapper block, and if you styled the wrapper block, that would limit a lot of things for people.
Yeah, because you'd be probably clearing it out as often as you're adding it.
Yeah. Now, what they've done, which is something we haven't, we're declaring block gaps specifically, and they've got some presets because they're doing their spacing a little bit differently than we are. So they're doing spacing, but they're declaring global spacing. So they've got padding. So in Ollie, there's padding top, right, left, and bottom globally, and block gap globally. So that's how they've got it throughout, rather than we've not declared that yet. So we could do it at that level. So declare block gap and padding globally. And
that would be just the shortcut to getting mobile side padding on mobile, right?
It is. And Powder have got, see if Powder do shortcuts. They're doing spacing gap, which is where's
just naming gap? Something called gap. Yeah,
I'm just seeing where spacing gap is. Oh, okay, so spacing gap is 30 pixels. So they are doing the same approach. And then 2024
core code block.
2024 has got the same, just not top and bottom. So yes, that is our shortcut rather than doing. So 2024 does have global spacing left and right if we go in, as well as the thing. So we've got preset, so we can do that. I'm going to put that in your theme now. What do you want in your theme for those ones?
Should we name a custom value for gap, or should we use spacing scale?
I don't mind doing a custom one if you want to start doing some custom ones.
Should we do like a pixel, or should we do like a spacing scale value?
I'm going to set up a custom section and we can kind of get into that. Let me get into the custom section. I've got about 4 themes open and I don't know which one's which anymore.
I know, and I do kind of miss how Customizer lets you change the theme, but it only is important for people like us that are like testing things. But the site editor doesn't let you, obviously, for very good reason, switch your theme.
Yeah. There is a lot. Also, that sometimes I get theme JSON isn't very good. Like we've now got however many lines, and it gets really difficult to just like see what you're doing. But the autocomplete is very good. Okay, so custom. I'm going to do spacing.
Okay.
Because that's what it apparently wants me to do. I don't think that's right. Is that right? No, it's not. Always forget to do a semicolon. Okay, spacing. Should we call it gap? Let's call it gap.
That's what I think. Like, the more people that model off of other people, the trickle down of like commonality we get, right?
Would you like it to be 30 pixels, 20 pixels? What do you want it?
I'm always like a bigger. Let's do 30 and we'll see. I might even go bigger, but I feel like that's good.
Feels like there's a consensus around here to call it 30.
There is a consensus about 30. Let's do it.
There's a consensus around 30. And I'm going to put that
spacing
down.
medium.
There is.
Ollie. Okay. Medium. It's probably a
clip, Ollie and Powder, there is a lot that's very similar. I'm just looking at the two of them together, which is quite fun. It's kind of unifying language, which I think is good.
So where are they setting? What is medium? Okay. Medium clamp. 1.54 feet. Okay.
So the only thing is our block gap at the moment is a rem, not a pixel.
What are our spacing sizes right now?
They're based on the 7 scale. We're just
scale
letting
steps.
it
Okay.
do what
Laying
it
it in.
does.
Okay. So we could use one of those, I guess. We could use like preset spacing 30 or 40.
We've got
but maybe it's safer because
unless you want to be very definite about, if you want to do 30 and you want to be very definite,
pixels, boom,
at the side
it
when you're mobile,
be
you
EMs
probably
or
do.
I'd like it to be an EM or pix because then it's not font dependent, which I've been font size dependent.
So
which I think probably overall better.
So we've got preset medium. Just have a look in here. Size preset medium. Okay. So Ollie uses Rem for the block gap, which makes sense because block gap will have some text, but it's using, and also for the padding. Powder is using pixels. So
what are their their spacing sizes, even though they have some responsiveness to them.
So we could use, if you want the block gap to be 1.4, do you want it? I guess it really depends with block gap. 2024 uses, let's go back to our definite. 2024 uses, what's its block gap?
Rems.
Rem, and then the spacing is 50. Should we put that in? But it uses 1.2. We've got 1.4 at the moment. Do you feel 1.4 is good?
I want to look at it. I think I'll like it because
Okay. I'm going to put that in at the moment. Leave it as 50. We've got that custom gap.
Yes.
I'm going to take that out.
Okay.
But we've now got a custom section because we can just put things in there now. It's not going to hurt anyone. I'm going to save that and commit that because then we've got, let's check that works. Always good to run your code.
Sometimes.
Nice to occasionally run the theme JSON so that your site still works. Oh, I think it does. Cool.
Good.
But then just a custom. So what were we talking about doing a custom value? Because let's see if we can add one while we're here.
A border radius that we could then use among our button block and among our styles SCSS. Yeah. Like a 4
so
or
we just
6
made
pixel.
Custom radius, I guess.
I think, radius. Rounding. I don't know. Radius is the word.
We want to do that on the border though, don't we? On the button.
On the button. Yeah, like the default button.
Yeah. So not in that section. I'm going to commit this because I think we want to do that on the section rather than, and we can also look at doing it.
Okay.
But I will commit this and then you can test we've now got custom section.
Custom.
But I think us determining what we want. So custom section, and now we've got block gap 1.4, padding left and right, preset spacing 50. Did you want 50 or did you want 30?
I think unless I adjust our default scales, 50 feels right.
Okay, cool. It's what 2024 has.
Yeah.
So you kind of
I
feel
like
that one.
more space.
Yeah. Okay, let me.
We'll see if it feels crazy on mobile. But
it's easy to change now.
Responsive. Yes.
And then we can still do the by the block, bring it in as well.
Adjusting it. Yeah.
Okay, that one's gone up.
Cool.
So we've also got typography and navigation. So what I'm now going to do is we've spoken about button.
Yes.
We've got other defaults because now it'll be moving on to default. I'm not stopping patterns, but I feel that patterns now we need to make some decisions about categories.
Okay. I can write those up.
And then images. So how many fingers are we going to have on each image? Let the robots decide. So I also have to find out whether there is an easier way to declare blocks or not. I'm going to set up some custom values. I'm going to set up, do we have a list? I thought we had a list of default blocks. Let me double check that.
Yeah, that might be an issue.
So if we don't, let's make a list now.
Okay.
Define what core blocks you start. No, we have a list. We have avatar, button, code, formatted, comment template, gallery, heading, image, latest comments, latest posts. So some of those will be template parts. And then next week we will do template and template parts. That feels like a good kind of finish to the time. And then separator and table. So some of those I feel are template parts.
Okay.
Which is absolutely fine. So what I'll do is move those into the template part section, or for card-like. So I'm going to go through any of those, which will be defaults. I'm going to do like a run at default styles, probably do some custom variables just for the next couple of hours, just pushing through those.
I think tables and forms feel similar to me, that I'm going to probably want those in style.css so they're available to the world, not just.
But I'll also set some defaults up.
Okay.
Like what I'm doing is just setting like a space for you to add some defaults, and then over the week you can just fill it up as much as you want. What I also will do is I will set a CSS sheet up, so you're not just putting it in style CSS, which I think is sensible, and do a front and back loading. If I do that this afternoon, that makes sense to me as well.
That's good.
Let me add a note for myself, because otherwise I won't do it. Well, my brain will just go into code mode and be like, yeah, what was I doing? I don't know.
I know it's like a project of this size, you're like, just make progress, but structured progress helps.
Then the problem is when you're dealing with so
in the right way.
I'm just going to check whether there are any more patterns. So we had any patterns from the pattern directory. So you need to make a decision whether you want any patterns are not colored. So we do need to work out whether we're moving any of the colors and the categories. And do you want any loaded as starters? So there was this link that I want to give you as well, which is this handy developer add starter patterns to your WordPress themes. It's a really nice like little guide. Which starter is like the most underused feature, but really handy.
Yeah, I like it, and then sometimes I get annoyed by it because I'm just like, I just want to add a page.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I already have a landing page and a home page, but it's always there. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I still think it's,
yeah.
So we definitely want our home to have the stack of patterns, probably pretty similar to what the demo site currently has. That can
And
just
then
be
for
home done
next week,
HTML, right?
thinking about some templates and then
Okay.
how do we load those up?
Okay.
And then that might also tell us where we need more patterns or where we don't need more patterns. And what do we need spacing wise?
Yes.
Where do we want them?
Where do we want them?
Yeah.
We haven't gotten
Yeah,
into a custom block yet, but we might be close to needing one. But that can come later. We need the framework first. Your face.
I feel we are doing, you've done so much. Like,
I don't know.
So, this has gone from a gentle theme conversion to you're now redoing the whole thing and having a framework to build membership sites. So
You're right.
yes, it was like a gentle, like we're just going to do like a little theme conversion and start off really gently and just do a few things to, here's a whole framework.
Here's the whole framework. Oops. I'm
That's
happy
fine.
with it.
It's fine. But I guess now it's like, think about what bits do you want next week, because then you can have some time of that you need information on as well to then, because you're now having this, and then what do you need information to unlock yourself? Because I feel every time I'm sharing something, you're going way ahead in your journey, which is amazing. But how do we help? Like, how do I help that a little bit more next week?
No, I appreciate all the links help. I think like the imitation, like I look at other people's themes and then finding things in the handbook and the developer resources. Yeah. You're like,
the developer blog is starting to become a real source of goodness for a lot of this stuff. But the problem with, as you've seen, is a lot of this isn't written.
Can't keep up. It's okay.
Well, it's more because it'd be written that core will do this or not core will do this. So then you have to try whether it doesn't. Right. But generally, if it doesn't it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going to also try and find, is there an easier way than we found? Because I feel a little bit uneasy about that variable. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's the long-term good approach to have a variable just sat around in a pattern.
Yes. Yeah. What's the better way? And if it's that pattern doesn't exist at all, the pattern's filtered earlier, I think that's okay. So
I mean, the answer could be at the template level. Yeah, don't show this if this plugin isn't available or something like that. So, but if not, there needs to be a core thing. Is there anything else you need from my brain?
I feel good. I have things that need to wait for later. So I'm gonna go.
That was a meandering Monday. I mean,
it is. We don't need any more right now. I think we're in good shape for next steps. Thank you so much,
So
Tammy.
I'm going to do never comparison block. I will push that to you. I will update you async on that. And then we will wrap up today. I've got a couple more hours on that one. Yep. And then I will give you it for the rest of the week. And you will have take it into the next stages.
Take it into the next stages. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Me and Tammy are going to do this again next week. I don't know the exact time, but I'll post the event when it's live. You can go to cashflowtheme.com to get a link to the GitHub repository and see where the progress is, or demo.cashflowtheme.com to kind of browse through where our progress has gone towards making this block theme. Thanks for watching. Give this channel a subscribe, and then you'll get notified when our next live is happening. Take care. Have a great week.